Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Marketing Happy Hour. Hope you have your beverage with you and your comments and questions. My name is Dr. Christopher Vogelmann I switched from Maximize Your Media, which is our digital agency, to drvogelmann.com, which is another place where you can find me. With me today, as always, is
Jennings, aka Kam Fats, coming at you guys on behalf of epicconversions.com. Pleasure being with everybody. Thanks so much for having me.
And then down here.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Paduchak, johnpaduchak.com. It's great to be here today, of course. Love it.
You're loving it?
I'm loving it.
This is like McDonald's or something?
Maybe.
So you deserve a break today. I was going to say, and so get up and get away. Okay. But one of the things that we're talking about is one of the sneaky little things that is probably affecting your business success. And it's right under your nose right now. By the way, did you guys appreciate that little quick Canva graphic?
Very
with
nice.
Mr. Bean?
Yeah, that was funny.
I sent the GIF or GIF of that to Cam last night. We were talking about something under your nose because we were trying to come up with a good headline for but that's part of what we're looking at right now is the implementing of various strategies and tactics is all dependent upon something with which most of us are very familiar. And what would that be, gentlemen?
Yeah, it's mindset. It's your mindset. And yeah, it's crazy because this thing about mindset is so funny because when you put any kind of a video in a course that you're doing or some kind of a training that you're doing, people try to do this all the time. They try to put videos in there, modules in there about mindset. And these are the videos that mostly people skip. They don't, oh God, mindset video, I'm skipping this one. I'm moving to chapter 2. It's always like that.
Yeah, because they think they all know it. So here's here's something that came up with me this week. So Scott Alford just put out his book, which is The Nuclear Effect. And he has 6 pillars of business. And mind you, the 6 pillars of business has mindset as chapter 6. Because he knew exactly what you're talking about, Cam, which is people aren't going to start out with the mindset. But what's funny is in chapter 6, he says, it's the most important pillar, but I knew you people wouldn't think it is until I gave you all this other stuff, all this mechanical stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to put it into action if A, you're overwhelmed, or B, you don't believe you can be successful at doing this stuff?
Yeah, that's funny, maybe by the time you get through the other 5 and you get to chapter 6, you start going, yeah, I can see where mindset fits in.
Yeah.
But it's funny how most people just don't see that right away.
Well, and part of the thing is that competence will actually produce confidence over time. So if you learn certain things, certain tactics, if you become an email master like Cam and Troy, if you become really good at live video, that competence will actually translate into confidence that you really know what the hell you're doing.
Absolutely.
There are things that have happened to me since I've been working full-time online that I'm forced to believe certain things that I know to be true, but I would not have believed them when I was just working at a normal job. And I don't believe that I could convince anybody in my normal life outside of my family who witnesses it all the time. But outside of that, I don't believe I could convince any of those people to believe what I say as far as like, hey, listen, it's well within your ability to earn, pretty much whatever you want to earn this month. But like, you have to believe it like the same way you believe that your car is going to start when you go out and try to start, or the same way you believe that your refrigerator is going to be working when you wake up. It's like, there's like a level of confidence and belief that you have to have that it's hard to get there sometimes.
Yeah. Or that the sun will rise tomorrow morning.
Yeah. We just believe it. And if we can have that kind of, and I think it's what Doc was saying about confidence, like if we can have that confidence that these things are going to happen, man, I mean, I've seen it happen again and again and again. Like if I have a goal to sell this many units on a project, or if I have a goal to make this much money on a certain amount of a certain month, like again and again and again, I'll be able to make that happen unless I set my goal outside of something I truly believe, and then it becomes tricky because and I know this sounds really woo woo and like new age crap, but
it's the real deal, because we'll talk a little bit later about the biochemical individuality and being able to actually mold your brain according to what the thoughts and the focus that you put onto things.
Yeah,
and you're just coming off a launch, or are you still in the launch at this point?
No, I'm out. It was just a 4-day launch. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was really good. But it's one of those, again, it's one of those things. It does. I mean, this mindset thing is like, it's probably the thing that holds most people back, to be honest. And it's the thing that makes most people succeed. And it's like, I mean, the idea is, how do you harness it? How do you harness? Okay, well, if I need to absolutely believe that I'm going to win, like I believe, the sun's going to come up, like you said, how do I do that? That seems like impossible. I've never done it before. So how can I believe that it's going to happen the same way that I believe the sun's going to come up? Yeah, that's the elusive trick right there.
Well, and it starts when we're really, really young. I mean, you have the notion that, I can't possibly learn to tie my shoes. How the heck am I ever going to learn how to tie shoes?
Yeah.
And over time, and it's automatic after a while, but it's this constant, never ending repetition that gets us to the point where we have that confidence and like, oh, that worked. Maybe I'll try something new. So John, speak to a little bit about when you're talking about mindset, when you approach a new project or you approach a new client, like you're prospecting, for example.
Speak to that.
Well, I mean, what kinds of things do you think of when you pick up the phone or you send out an email or you set up a Zoom call? There's got to be some sort of a mindset or expectation or belief that you have. Otherwise, why the hell would you even set those calls up?
There's always the belief. That's a good point. I mean, I came from the financial industry initially, so I was constantly on the phone all the time. And one of the things I found helpful for that is that you always kind of get to the point where you keep thinking the person on the other side of the phone is your best friend, and you just kind of have to get in that mindset. And sometimes you don't feel like doing that stuff and you just got to do it anyway. And
John,
you just have to keep doing it over and over until you get better at it. But
John, how do you advise people? Like, let's say someone comes to you, they want to start some kind of video marketing campaign or YouTube channel for their business or whatever. But man, like, they are terrified to be on camera and they don't feel like they're going to be very good at it. It's going to fail. Like, man, how do you get them to change around their mindset to kind of feel like they have the confidence to do something like that?
That's a great question. And it's not an easy question to answer, especially when it comes to video and getting people, on camera. It's just such a deep-seated fear with some people. And you really have to kind of persuade them to just kind of do it anyway. And the easiest way that I found to get them to do it anyway is to get them in the buddy system. It's always easier to do anything with a buddy, right? If you're working out at the gym, it's always easier to do it with a buddy. If you're going out on the town, it's always easier to have a wingman, right? It's just so much easier with a friend involved, somebody that has a mutual interest or wants to kind of accomplish the same goal with you. Accountability partner. That's why that's so important to us in business, to have somebody who we can be accountable to and who works with us on things, or a coach.
Yeah.
So but that's a tough one, because so many people have that fear of, public speaking is one of the biggest fears people have, and this is like right up there.
So when it comes to mindset, though, my question would be, so do you think that people have a greater fear of public speaking or a greater fear of going live on a camera?
That's a good question. I'd say they're probably equal.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I think they're probably close to equal.
Yeah.
I would assume that most people would have a bigger fear of being in front of the big crowd and actually seeing the big crowd. But then there's that fear of the unknown crowd.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know who's out here watching me.
And who's going to troll me?
Yeah. So I don't know which is worse.
I can say for me, sorry, Cam.
No, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, for me personally, I actually found going live with a camera where there's so many unknowns out there to be more difficult than, say, speaking to a group of anywhere from 50 to 1,000 people live on stage.
Yeah.
But that's just me, because I feed off the energy of the audience.
Crowd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also have that same thing in a lot of cases live. You know, if we're doing a webinar, we still have communication with the crowd. If we're doing a live, we've got the comments. So I mean, you still feed off the crowd, but it's a different feed off the crowd.
Well, I think there's the fear. I've got so many things going on. Let's say StreamYard or Ecamm or whatever you're doing. I've got these buttons to push. I've got to figure out, who's commenting. Do I highlight their comments? Am I going too long? Am I too boring? What's happening next? And so when you do these types of things, it can be very unnerving until you do them again and again and again and again.
Right.
And these are almost becoming automatic for me now, because I'm getting used to the idea of how to set things up, how to create the images, and where to send these things to. Now, sometimes I get totally mixed up, like I did a couple of weeks ago, where I actually started the scheduled marketing happy hour with my friend Monica with the wrong link. And so we did the whole Total Health Live into Troy's live event broadcasters and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, and had to quickly, within 10 minutes, reconfigure an entire new broadcast to get it up and running so that we could actually do our marketing happy hour. And if I had not had the experience of setting these things up before, I would have freaked the hell out, and we would have never had that broadcast that we had a couple of weeks ago.
If you compare the two things, there's the fears are really pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
You have the fear of the technology. You still have the fear of the technology, whether you're speaking on stage or you're doing it live on video.
Yep.
You still have the, what am I going to say? How are people going to
perceive it, or how they react?
Perceive it or react to me.
Yeah.
And that's true whether you're live in front of them or you're on camera. So really, all those things are the same. The same fears exist in both places.
Hey, so in terms of mindset for both of you, which would you actually find easier or less fearful, going live with a camera or recording a video with a camera for future upload?
You want to go, John?
I think I find them about equal.
Okay.
To me, I perceive them as equal. If you were to ask me if I would rather do a live video or speak in front of a crowd, like I used to do a lot of public speaking in front of crowds, but now I'm more self-conscious about it. Sometimes I feel like I'm Michael J. Fox, because I have tremors. So my tremors come out when I'm like in front of a big crowd. So for me, live video is like my public speaking platform. I find it difficult to speak in public because of that, but I don't really have that problem doing it here. I don't have that same kind of adrenaline rush speaking live on video as I do in front of a crowd. So to me, that is disappeared, but that's me.
That's a good, those are good points, man. For me personally, when it comes to recorded video, it's like I got a net, so it's like, okay, I can just say whatever, and then I can edit it to perfection. Like I can spend the next hour just editing it to where it's perfect. No ums. I didn't say any ums. I didn't say any dumb stuff. I didn't, mispronounce paradigm or whatever, whatever other dumb thing I do sometimes. I mean, like, so it's the live video, you don't have a net, right? And it's kind of like what John was saying. I've been doing it for a long time now, so I think it's kind of what he was saying was I don't really feel the pressure either way. Right. They both feel about the same, but definitely. I mean, you got that net with the recorded video, but when I'm dealing with someone who doesn't want to be on camera, I mean, you got two kinds of people, right? You got the kind of person who doesn't want to be on camera, and they're not going to do it. That's not what they want to do. They would need to find a way around it. Yeah. And then you got the kind of person who's trying to figure out how they could do it. Like they know they need to do it. And like, if they could just figure out a way to get over that mental block. And like, I'd always just tell them like for me, what's worked really well for students I've had in the past is just, own it. Like whatever fear you have, like own it on the camera. So like, if you're afraid to be on camera, like the first thing out of your mouth, hey guys, today I want to talk to you about affiliate marketing. Now, before I even get into this, I want you to know this is like my second video ever, and I'm really nervous right now. I don't even know. My mind is going a mile a second, and like I'm taking some bullet points so I don't mess up. But I mean, I'm really nervous right now. And I think when you do that, you disarm people a little bit. Now they're not judging you anymore. Now they're behind you now. You know what I mean? So you've taken a perceived weakness and you've turned it into a strength. Now you're relatable. Now you're relatable to people. Another one would be an example. I've had a lot of clients who are like, English is not their first language, right? Yeah. So like they are self-conscious about their accents. Like they're okay being on the camera, but they feel like it's not going to go over well because of their accents. And I tell them the same thing. And I say, hey, listen, own it. First thing out of your mouth. Hey, listen, I suck at English. All right. I'm really sorry. I'm going to do my best, and they do it and it works. I had another guy who was self-conscious about his microphone, right? It was a cheap microphone. I said, own it, dude. Make a big deal out of it. Like, so he had this tagline. He was doing interviews and he was like, the best IM interviews you can get on a $5 microphone. And it was a tagline, and everybody started saying it all the time, and everyone around him was saying it. And it became this like big tagline, but it started with just him being afraid of his equipment not being good enough, like up to par or whatever. So I don't know. There's a lot to be said for just owning the things that you're afraid of, and it can kind of change your mindset around a little bit and give you some confidence.
I think you really can disarm people with that sort of thing. Of course, it goes opposite of what I kept thinking in my head, which was never let them see you sweat. And I think, having taken some speaking classes way back when, I'm just talking like, an hour here, 2 hours there. One of the things that I do remember is when it comes to the fear, they always recommended that you not make excuses when you're in front of a live audience. Like, oh, this is my first time doing this. I hope, and just go for it. So I think they're just different belief systems when it comes to, and there are many different approaches to speaking and being on camera and things like that. I mean, ultimately, I do believe that you have to be basically you and unafraid to be you. And that's like peeling layers away over time of our own insecurities and the desire to be perfect. Yet perfectionism kills more businesses than I've seen than anything else. The idea that you got to be totally perfect in terms of a mindset before you can actually release anything.
Definitely. I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's like what you said. It's all about getting to that place of how can I just be like myself? Like I'm just talking to my buddy or whatever. How can I be that guy when I got a camera in my face? Like whatever tricks or tactics that you can use to get to that place is the right one, Well, yeah, and I think it's interesting because when we've done these broadcasts, what you see what we've been off stage or whatever, green room, or before we actually go live, the conversation that is there and starts out is remarkably similar to what you see live. And then after I push the button to end the broadcast, it's the same level of energy for the most part. It really doesn't change, and people don't believe that.
One thing I wanted to bring up that I always tell people when they first kind of get started, we all remember a time when we first started doing something for the first time, right? And we were horrible at it.
Yeah.
So you can't really expect your experience in front of the camera to be any different. Expect to be terrible. Just assume that at the very beginning, you might not be that great. But imagine as you go along, you're getting better and better and you're improving and you see that kind of role model of where you want to be. And you'll eventually get there. It's just, you have to kind of start from that mindset of, it doesn't matter if I'm not going to be,
give yourself permission to be bad.
Give yourself permission to be bad at first. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I always tell people that, you need to embrace the idea that as you learn something, you are going to make mistakes. Right. You'll make mistakes. You will have failures. You will fall flat on your face. And the key is, are you going to pick yourself up and continue going, or are you going to give up and just slink into a corner?
Make failure your best friend.
Man, so many people doubt themselves and they doubt everything. Like, okay, here's something, right? A few years ago, right? I was talking to you about this last night, Doc. This guy, Wim Hof, right?
Oh, yeah.
They call him the Iceman, and he freaking, like, he has broken all these Guinness Book of World Records. He's been in an ice tank for like over 2 hours. Now, they recommend a human being shouldn't be in one of these ice tanks for over like 10 minutes because you're going to get like hypothermia and die.
Yep.
This guy has done it for over 2 hours, and they did all these studies on him. And the scientists, I was writing this down for you guys, but they did all these studies on him, and they basically found that, what they say, pointed to Hoff's own method as the reason why he could withstand the cold. They're basically saying they did all these tests on him, and they find that his brain like spikes, or his brain doesn't spike at a certain level. What was it? Hold on a second, guys. Let me just look at this. Bear with me real quick. Body temperature drops dangerously low in such scenarios, but tests show the heat of his skin did not deviate once. Striking brain scans reveal a region of his brain that controls pain is significantly more active than that of other participants. They dropped all these people in this really cold tank of water for several minutes, and they were monitoring their brain waves. His didn't change. And what they found was the reason why it was doing this was because basically of his mindset and these breathing techniques. But basically, he takes his mind to this place and he does these breathing techniques that basically keeps his skin from getting cold, which is like, when I first heard it, I was like, that's impossible. This is ridiculous. It's impossible, man. Because I have this medical background, and I'm just like, it's impossible. I mean, he would have had hypothermia. There's some trick, but it's not impossible. It's a real thing that's happened, and it's crazy, but it's true. And that's the most extreme example of mindset that I can think of. Another example that people could probably grasp a little easier, because I'm sure people are listening to this and they're thinking, yeah, whatever, dude, that's a trick. I could probably figure out it's a scam if I look hard enough. Yeah. Here's an example that's really simple, right? So I've been getting into watching these music reaction videos, or these reaction videos of people watching movie trailers. And like, that's the content on their channel. They just react to a movie trailer, or they react to like, a song or something. They react to other people's content. Hell, just today we were watching this video called Slapped Ham. Slapped Ham does all these he compiles like 5 ghost stories, right? Strange sightings or whatever. He's compiling other people's footage and doing his own narration over it. I found reaction videos to Slapped Ham. So that's like a 2nd generation reaction video. And people are like making money off of that on YouTube, like thousands and thousands of views. If I would have said to anybody, hey man, you know what you ought to do, man? You want to do a good YouTube channel to make some money? Why don't you just react to other people's YouTube videos where they're reacting to other people's YouTube videos?
There's a lot of that.
And like, they would tell me, dude, they would tell me like, I'm crazy. That's stupid. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. But it does work. I'll give you guys another example that's crazy. And then I'll shut up and give someone else the microphone. Okay, so like a couple years ago, I did this product called the Easy 23, and it was like 23 ways to create a membership program that was very easy, that would be simple to do, leverage work that you're already doing, kind of stuff. One of the ways was kind of controversial because a lot of people emailed me and said, that's impossible, dude. No one's going to pay me for that every month. And it was called the Learn Out Loud Club. And what I told people to do, because this was the problem, I tell everybody to start a continuity program. Try to get a continuity membership thing going as soon as you can. Even if you have no experience doing anything, get it going somehow. And they're like, how do I get that going? So this was the problem new people were having. They had no experience, so they didn't feel like they could start a membership program. And I said, here's what you do. All right. What do new people have as an asset? What is their big leverage point? Well, new people's big leverage point is the fact that they're always learning. They're constantly like trying things, and they're constantly reading and trying to figure new stuff out. I've talked to so many new people that know more about the current gurus and people teaching than I do. And that's their big asset, is that they're constantly learning. So I say, hey, look, man, why don't you do this, man? You're learning every month. Take notes on the stuff you're learning. Take notes on the stuff you're trying. Once a month, put on a call. And this call is going to be a Learn Out Loud Club. You're basically going to give people a behind the scenes access, backstage pass to your business as it grows. You're at nothing right now, but you're going to give people the backstage pass of what it looks like as you grow it. And you know what? They're going to be living vicariously through you, man. They're not going to be trying all this stuff like you are. So they're going to be interested to see what you're doing because you're going to save them time. And I had like 4 or 5 people reach out to me by email after that course came out and say, dude, that's impossible. That's never going to work. That would never work. That's ridiculous. And I had one person reach out to me 6 weeks later and said, dude, I am so thankful that you talked about that Learn Out Loud Club. I started that. I tried it. I already got 25 members. And I started like sending that email. I blurred out the name back to those other people that said it wasn't possible. But it's not that it's not possible, man. A lot of this stuff is possible if people just believe that they can do it, you know? Learn Out Loud Club, man, for real.
I may copy the Learn Out Loud Club because I'm starting a new business. So that's really good.
Yeah, it works, man, for sure.
I learned something out loud today.
Yay! Hey, man, it works, man. But so many people will like, I mean, come on, man. If like 500 or 600 people buy something and you get like 5 or 6 emails saying this one thing is not going to work, it's like, how many people are thinking it's not going to work? That they're just too lazy to send you an email challenging you on it.
They're too lazy. They're afraid to try it because they might fail.
Yeah. Tons.
Occasionally, some people are afraid to try it because they might succeed and they won't know what to do when things go well.
I've sabotaged my own success plenty of times.
It's like lottery winners.
Yeah. I did a study on lottery winners, and I don't want to go off topic, but I did a study on lottery winners. Yeah. And like they always put on pedestal the stories about all these, like the curse of the lottery and how people fail. Yeah. But some people succeed like greatly with their lottery winnings. But what they found, the people who succeed greatly with their lottery winnings are the ones that put a little financial team together because they recognize this fact that like, hey man, I've never dealt with this much money before. I don't know what to do with it. I need to put a little team together and talk about my goals and set them on the task of making it happen. And most of those people were able to like double their money in like 10 years. So it was crazy, man. But yeah, a lot of people did fail. But they ball out of control, dude. They're just like, I just want a bunch of money.
I'm going to buy as many cars, fancy houses, everything. Oh, you mean I had to pay taxes on that? Oh, I don't have any money for taxes.
The other thing they did, let me say this in case anyone watching this wins the lottery. The other thing they did was, this was another secret to success, right? They didn't claim their winnings at like right off the bat. They claimed their winnings anonymously. And they waited about a month before they went in and claimed their winnings. And what they did in that month was they set everything up. They got their little financial team together. And they set it all up. And then they went in and claimed it anonymously because that cut down on like all the con artists, man, because people come out of the woodwork when you win a bunch of money. So
times over the years.
I don't know what the hell that has to do with mindset, but I mean,
it has a lot to do with it. I mean, in terms of the expectations, the familiarity, the ability to get a degree of clarity as what your long-term goals are. And are you willing to discipline yourself when you have the big win? Because we all have big wins when we put out products or continuity programs or things like that. How do we anticipate dealing and with our success? What kind of emotions do will success actually stimulate?
I find that whenever I get close to a new level of success, something I haven't experienced before, that's when I got to be careful about self-sabotage. I find myself trying to do things. I don't want to say that like it's sabotaging me on purpose, but things that'll keep me like exactly where I'm at, like decisions I'm making. Like I'll get a lot less risky with my decision making. I'll try to retreat back a step or whatever. Subconsciously I do this. I don't do it on purpose.
It's a sense of self-worth, I think. Do we really embrace the idea that we deserve to be happy, that we deserve to have a certain income level? Because I've hit a ceiling several times when I had my practice. When I first started in practice, I would make like sometimes some months would be 10,000. I eventually get, $15,000, $20,000 months. I hit my ceiling at somewhere around $40,000 to $45,000 months. And I would bounce back down again the following month because my recognition was it was far more than my father, who'd been in practice, was ever making. And God forbid you want to show up your father.
That's maddening, isn't it? And and you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure out how to break through that ceiling.
Why do I keep bouncing at 45,000 a month?
It's maddening, dude.
Got to reset the thermostat.
What's
reset
that?
The thermostat.
Yeah, the thermostat. Yeah. Well, part of resetting the thermostat, I did. What was it? Unleash the Power Within with my wife a couple of weeks ago. That was actually very interesting, the Tony Robbins event. And one of the things that I recognize is he does a lot of suggestion, a lot of visualization. Mm-hmm. And visualization is one of those things where you really need to harness your imagination and put enough emotion through these pictures or dreams or visions or whatever the hell you want to call them. And I found this book. This has been sitting around here for a while. It's called Psychopictography.
Ooh, that looks cool.
It's an unusual book, but it's by this fellow, Vernon Howard, who's a bit, metaphysical woo-woo. But my gosh, the principles of psychology that he outlines in this book, Psychopictography, are amazing because it really focuses in on neuroplasticity. That the thoughts that you think eventually change the pathways in your brain. The pathways become wider and wider and wider. And the more you think about something that's constructive and positive, physiologically, those neurons become bigger. And they allow you to think constructively, possibility thinking. They allow you to be more goal-oriented more easily because you've actually changed the physical constraints of your brain cells.
Damn, man, that's awesome.
That's powerful. Neuroplasticity, if you want to get into that.
What's the subtitle on that book, man?
Subtitle is The New Way to Use the Miracle Power of Your Mind. Psychopictography. Nice. Vernon Howard. I'll put a link in there if somebody wants to get it. These were really hard to get a hold of. These were actually being offered at one point by a guy who was doing investments and stock trades and things like that. And he bought out this old library of books and republished them under his own publishing company because they'd actually fallen into
public
obscurity.
Domain. Yeah.
Or not public domain, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
No, they weren't public domain. They're actually they are copywritten. They're not public domain. But, but he bought them. So
yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there that you can actually purchase the rights to that are just kind of like people aren't doing anything with them.
In
They're
public
out there.
Domain.
Yeah.
Just think of all the Think and Grow Rich book versions that are out there. Think and Grow. It's like the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, but the Think and Grow Rich. What was it? There was one African-American version of Think and Grow Rich, and there's another one about the woman's Think and Grow Rich.
And there are tons of them.
There's lots of them out there. And so that's a good example of people who are just starting out and thinking, I have nothing to give, nothing to continue. Curation of content is a huge thing. Take a look at any magazine. A magazine is curation of a bunch of people's different content that's all thrown together in a magazine. You could start your own magazine, or just like the derivative thing you're talking about earlier was people looking at the reactions of people watching YouTube videos.
Man.
I mean, people watching people play video games.
It's genius. It's crazy. Like, it doesn't make sense, but it's genius.
You remember the biggest video viewers ever have been people watching people eat.
Yeah. Mukbang, right? Mukbang. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Yeah, what's that all about, dude? I don't even understand that kind of thing, but it doesn't matter because a lot of people like it.
Yeah, one of my favorite YouTube channels that I watch all the time is one with a guy I know. He lives in Japan, American sons. He lives in, they live in Japan and they go all over the place eating all the food there. It's great.
Nice.
Well, we're all voyeurs at heart. I mean, just think of all the Anthony Bourdain, the Food Network, all the other ones where people are just watching other people do stuff.
Yes.
That's true, man. That's true. Sometimes I got to stop doing that. Sometimes it brings me down. Sometimes it's like, man, these cats got way better lives than I got, man. They're doing all this stuff.
But that's that brings up an important point, which I think that, as entrepreneurs, there are certain mindsets that we really screw ourselves with. One of them is comparison. When we start comparing our progress to somebody else, it's either going to inspire us, which it does in a lot of cases, to become better, but more often than not, it depresses us that we aren't as good as that person who has succeeded.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like if I can watch something It's just weird, man. Because like in business, when I watch business stuff, I got this mindset of, man, I'm going to take what I can from this. I'm not gonna compare myself to this. But like when I take that business hat off, like if I'm watching like what you're talking about, like food stuff or like, adventure stuff or
travel,
vlogging, like I don't got that business hat on, and I'm just watching it like on cruise control, and I'm starting to be like, man, maybe we don't do enough around here.
but understand how we're wired. We're wired for danger. Whether it's a saber-toothed tiger or food shortages or whatever it is, our brains are wired for danger. And if somebody is succeeding more than we are, there are certain emotions in the limbic system in your lizard brain that start coming up, which are like, hey, I'm not as good as that person. I need to get what that guy's got, everything else. So there's greed, there's fear of lack, there's worry, there's all this stuff that starts popping up from the subconscious. And the more aware you are of your own reactions to some of these things, just, even on TV, the more you begin to think, maybe there is some room for improvement. And I think it's the comparison with ourselves that's the real one. And I think of one thing Eric Louvier had said one time, and I used one of his PLR pieces, and it was, you need to change your mindset from being a buyer of stuff. Change your mindset from being a consumer to being a merchant, to a guy who sells stuff or a gal who sells stuff. And that's a very interesting mindset shift, because at the beginning, when you start out in the internet marketing world or any sort of a business, you're buying courses, you're buying coaching, you're buying. And it becomes very easy. And I've slipped into this too, to become a perpetual student of marketing as opposed to a doer of marketing and selling stuff. So sell versus buy. Or your business may go bye.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point, man. Terry Thompson in the house, you guys.
Terry's here. Where is she? Here. Howdy, y'all. She also says howdy, y'all.
Hey, Terry, what's up?
Terry.
106 degrees in Texas right now, you guys.
Hey, Terry, it's only about 90 here, and we have no air conditioning. I had to install 2 air conditioners with our teenager.
Been the 90s in New Hampshire like for weeks. It's been great.
It's amazing.
We're not used to this heat.
You're not used to heat. Well, we've had the most amazing summer, and I tell you, because Coronado, San Diego is famous for May gray, because it's always gray in the mornings and stuff, because the marine layer rolls in from the ocean. May gray, June gloom. This year we had July gloom. So it was cool, maybe anywhere from 70, 75 each day. Very unusual. And now it's hotter than hell here with no AC.
That's the way it is here now. It's kind of surprising. It's not usually like that.
But you appreciate. I am grateful at this point that it's maybe 90-some degrees with no AC and no fan in this office, because it sure beats walking around Moscow at minus 30 degrees.
Oh, no doubt. Holy cow.
And I remember how bone chilling that was when you were talking about the fellow who was the Iceman.
Yes.
So that's relativity too. And relativity is one of those laws, universal laws, that you look at, it's hot and it's 90, but it could be snowing and minus 30.
It could be worse.
It's all relative, And the same thing with... Yeah, it's like with good and bad too. I'll bring something over here from my bookshelf.
Oh.
I just rolled over my foot with my chair, and that was damn heavy.
Sounded painful.
It was extremely painful, but that's the beauty of live broadcasting, because the show must go on.
The show must go on, man.
So this is something that I got many, many years ago. I was teaching doctors all across the U.S. and Canada, working with a team of people. This is like one of their higher sort of philosophy stuff, but it's a triangle. There's not a love triangle, not a love triangle, but this is one where you kind of recognize that like good and bad are kind of a polarity, and we tend to label certain things good and certain things bad. And when the reality is that it's usually too soon to judge whether something's good or bad. And it reminds me of a story of the fellow, I think it was in China. It's originally, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, but this guy was basically, I think Lao Tzu wrote this story. I'll change it a little bit, which is, there's this elderly gentleman, he's a grandfather, and he has his grandson in his little house, and they were dirt poor. They actually had I think they had one horse, and they kept the horse in a corral. And one day the horse escaped from the corral and disappeared. And the neighbors were very sympathetic, and they talked to the old man. They said, look, he said, we're so sorry that this happened to you. This is just a terrible thing, because they really had virtually no money. And they said, the horse left, and it was like, oh my God, what are you going to do now? You have nothing. And about a day or two later, the horse came back. He goes into the corral because it's his famous favorite place, and trailing behind him are 10 other horses. And so his grandson locks the gate. He's got 11 horses now. And he's saying, and the neighbors are coming around. This time they're saying to the old man, they said, hey, look, this is just amazing. Your good fortune that's happened. This is incredible. It's so wonderful. The old man looks at the relatives, looks at the horses, looks at the grandson. And he says, well, you never can tell whether anything's good or bad till God gets through with it. And so, they with this new fortune, the grandfather and his grandson realized that, you got to take these wild horses who would come in, and you got to break them. So the grandson was breaking one horse, he was breaking another one, and they decided to take on the most cantankerous horse of all, the one who was the wildest and most horrible, because this was the most beautiful horse. This horse would make bank for this little family. Nice. And so the son gets up on the horse, and he tries to break the horse, and the horse throws him off, crushes his 2 legs. And people came from all around the area, his neighbors, and they just said, oh my God, this is so horrible. Your grandson has 2 broken legs. What's this going to do? Granted, you got these horses, but how are you, this elderly gentleman, going to take care of these horses? And the old guy looks at everybody again. He says, in his philosophical manner, you can never tell whether anything is good or bad till God gets through with it. And so it comes about that a warlord in a neighboring tribal area, decides that he is going to make war on another section of the country. And so he rounds up all the able-bodied young men to join his army and forces them to join his army. And the old man's grandson can't possibly go because he's got 2 broken legs. And so the neighbors who saw their sons taken away would just tell the old man, God, you're so lucky your son had broken both legs, because he's going to survive. He'll heal eventually and be able to help you. And the old man looks at everybody again and says, you can never tell whether anything's good or bad until God gets through with it. Wow. So we judge our circumstances so early, and we label things like this was good, this was bad, when in reality, we have no idea what's going to happen next. We have our goals, we have our dreams, we have our desires. But the reality is we'll label something good or bad. Like I had a failed launch. I thought that was the most horrible thing in the world. But it let me move on to the next project, which was far better. And had I had a successful launch, I would not have gone to create something new. So anyway, that's my long-winded approach to labeling good or bad. You really don't know if it's good or bad. Really I mean, had I not had my divorce years ago, I would not have my wonderful marriage now.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool, man. And it kind of reminds me of Beyond Good and Evil too, from Nietzsche a little bit. Yeah. So
but we label stuff. We label stuff all the time.
Yeah, we do. We label stuff all the time, and I find a lot of times people label things. People look towards the negative a lot of times, and that generally is how they steer most of the time. Even when something good happens, they usually look at the negative aspect of it.
This won't last.
Yeah,
it's too good to be true. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, and what's really funny about that is like when they're talking to their friends or whatever. Even if they do see it as a good thing, they would be embarrassed to talk to their friends about it being a good thing. They're going to point out like the negative aspects of it to their friends. Why do we do that? Isn't that weird?
I think it's the fear of getting shot down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the fear of rejection, the fear of ridicule, the fear of people making fun of us.
And a bit of the herd mentality, because that's what Everybody else is doing.
You got to stay with the herd. It's dangerous,
herd, man.
You don't want to be.
You don't want to. Way. We got to go over the cliff for the rest of the herd.
So I've heard.
Me too. Yeah.
Terry said, "Go ahead,
Terry. I didn't see. Why don't you read Terry's? Because I don't have my reading glasses on."
Terry said a couple things. She said, "Always love hearing bits and tips from you guys. Thank you, Terry. We appreciate you hanging out with us."
That's great. She's got a long one here. Where is this one?
Yeah,
put it up here. This one is now found the reading glasses. You try with the signature sheet, McDonald. Remind me of the fish philosophy. Pike Street Fish Market. Always play. What was that? I missed that part.
Play where you work.
Oh yeah, you got to play. You got to have fun.
Work like a game. That's another great mindset.
It is a game. I think one of the
she loves your story. She loves your story, Doc. She wants to know if it's okay if she shares it.
Of course you can. He doesn't know. He probably stole it from somebody else.
Yeah, he stole it from somebody else.
That's the first time I did sort of Kam story hour here. So.
I loved it, man. I loved it. Keep it up.
Story time.
But that's the other thing too. We have sometimes a fear of telling stories. Kam has gotten rid of that fear. He's no longer storylophobic.
I love stories. I love the
work. Man. I've always been like kind of a story kind of person, and I always want to be like telling stories and stuff. My family says that I am. I could do. Because I always say to my wife, I said, man, I think I could do that. Sports talk radio. Just like kind of like Jim Rome style, like Rome is Burning, where it's just like me and I'm just talking for like 3 hours by myself. I'm just carrying the whole thing. My wife says, "Yeah, I believe you could do that."
That's really funny. It's great. I do remember when I used to teach these classes to doctors and use the triangle theories and things like that. You have to always look at things too, whether something was a fantasy, a theory, or a fact. That's a whole other story. And most of this time, when we start out in the entrepreneurial world, particularly the online world, it's like pure fantasy. It's like, I want my Lambo, I want my mansion, I want the Ty Lopez life or this or that. And that's the fantasy thing. And then when you kind of think about it for a while and you change from your vision board mentality into actually trying to put a plan together where it's theoretical. Here's my business plan. I mean, how many business plans actually have come to fruition? You're always changing them, tinkering them, doing something with them. Every business plan is imperfect,
Yeah, it always gets adjusted, man.
Yeah.
It always gets adjusted.
And you have to be flexible enough to adapt to the changes that are coming out. And eventually your business is manifested. It's bricks and mortar. Boom, you've hung your shingle. You got people coming in the door. And now your business is a fact. You've gone from fantasy, you visualized it, so it's fantasy, to theory or business plan, to fact. You're open for business. Yep. And I think the digital world is more fantasy than anything else. People are selling the easy button and the dream lifestyle more than if you really were putting together a bricks and mortar business.
Yeah, and it's perpetuated. It's perpetuated too, because the people who actually are running businesses, a lot of them, they feel it's easier to sell people that easy money button. So they just she's stealing what you stole first, man.
She's stealing what I stole. God, there's so much theft. But anyway, that seems to be the whole online world. Think about it. People take PLR products or other things. Actually, I've seen a couple of people who are sort of unmasking several gurus lately, where they just show and they trace back, who stole which software and how they slap their names on or stole programs and things like that. That's pretty interesting to see. And there's no need for that. You can put your unique spin on all kinds of things and sell like gangbusters. So
yeah, you see it all the time, even in the real world. Look at the NutriBullet. Had this NutriBullet blender. It was a bullet blender, the first of its kind, and then all of a sudden, flash forward a few years, and you got the Nutri Ninja. It's just another bullet blender, same thing.
We have one called BlendTech, which is another. I kind of like the BlendTech one because it has somebody who's brilliant with this. They have little messages each time you blend something. It'll say things like, "Wow, that's something you should put on Instagram," or "Man, that looks tasty." Cool. I love those little messages because you never know what's coming up next after you finish blending.
BlendTechs are cool, man. BlendTechs, they say they can blend anything. And
Yes and no. Some people say they're totally crappy, but I have a lot of fun with them.
Hey, I'm a blender aficionado, man. You know, Blendtec is what they used in Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead in that documentary.
Really?
I don't know if you saw that documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. And there was a part 2 to it also. But I mean, basically this guy, he had a urticaria, skin condition.
Yeah, urticaria.
Yeah. And he had that, and he was big, and he was on like 15 different medications, and his doctor said, "Hey, look, man, you know, I don't know what to tell you. You need to lose some weight, you know?" And so he's like, something has to change. Something drastic has to change. So he decides he's going to do this 90 days and nothing but juice, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's using a Blendtec juicer. And he's juicing for like 90. That's all he does for 90 days is juice, man. He comes off all this medicine. He loses like 100 pounds. At the very end of it, he goes up in a hot air balloon and he eats an apple.
That's great. I gotta watch
back,
that
man.
One. That's worthy of Netflix binging.
It was cool, man. I've heard. Go ahead,
John made lots of changes when he had some health challenges. He gets these boxes of organic, imperfect produce.
I do.
What happened, John? What was your I mean, if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, though.
No. It's a great story. In fact, it's funny because it actually relates a lot to what we're talking about today, because it's getting over an illness like that is all mindset too.
Yep.
Because what happened over a period of 5 years is, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if I was particularly susceptible to it or whatever, but I'm starting to see more and more people affected by similar things. In fact, Mike Dillard recently came out, had kind of the same exact symptoms and things that I was seeing, which was I had wicked brain fog. I literally was so exhausted I could barely move for like a period of 5 years. And you just try to mentally talk about mindset, try to mentally work yourself out of that box. So every day you're just trying to kind of keep pushing, keep going. And even still, I was taking a little test from someone the other day, and he's got it lined up in different phases. And it's like I'm still working on like a quarter of a battery every day, as opposed to somebody who's got the half or full cell, So it's
what did you do, man? How did you make the change from being like just at such a low level? Like what changes did you make?
I found out I had like a ton of food sensitivities, and it was really weird. And it turns out that even a bunch of my friends then ended up going and finding out they had a bunch of huge food sensitivities. So what ended up being my own kind of solo battle with this thing, it ended up being I was in it, and then now I had a whole bunch of friends involved because they were seeing things that were showing up for them, and we all ended up going to the same doctor locally, who turned out a couple of years ago he was one of New Hampshire's top doctors for this particular aspect of GI functional medicine. And they always joke that your stomach is your second brain. I would argue that it's your first brain, because if your digestive system and all that stuff isn't working, your brain isn't working at all.
Yep.
Everything.
Most of my patients were functional medicine patients towards the end of my time in DC, and it was about gut integrity, and that your belly brain was the thing that was going to really determine what your overall clarity of thinking was going to be.
Indeed it does.
Wow.
So even now, I'm trying to make some big changes, trying to reformulate my diet again. I've been playing around a lot with some of the different nootropic things, which do help in some areas that still having some challenges with.
I was wondering about that nootropic stuff.
Yeah, some of
it's amazing stuff.
It's quite amazing stuff.
Have you guys heard the stuff? Because there's some it's weird. Like everything with healthcare, there's a duality to it. Like I could look up bananas and like I could find 5 articles that say they're the best thing ever for you, and then 5 more that says you got to be careful because they're not very good for you or whatever. Same with kale or anything else. And like with nootropics, like the argument is that it can offer you short-term gain, but long-term negative side effects or whatever. So
I think like anything, you got to kind of be watchful over it. It's one of those things that can be a little bit of a hack for now. but you don't want to become too dependent on it. But Cam, I've literally gotten to the point where I grow my own food. I'm looking at growing my own stuff hydroponically so that I can keep doing that, because I'm fine.
Awesome.
I grew up on a farm, in my youth. And one of the things I notice as time goes on, I'm like, the quality of produce isn't as great. And I think I can do better myself. So I think I'm gonna.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I was going to say, ultimately, this is not a health broadcast, but ultimately the whole foods, not talking about the grocery store, but foods in their natural state generally are better for you than extracting tiny compounds, which is what pharmaceutical companies tend to do. And it's good to have these hacks and these temporary things, but the long-term outcome is really dependent on our lifestyle and our mental emotional state.
Mindset.
Yeah. Are we going to make the choices? So for John, it's like he's made these dramatic changes, dramatic choices, pulled himself up out of the depths of a disease. But the same thing is true in our businesses. You have to reach a point where you're willing to make those decisions. And for most people in the online world and most entrepreneurs, it's not until we get the clarity, the vision, and a sense of purpose that we really have the additional mental energy to be able to conquer the world and build our own empires, despite the many discouraging things that are bound to happen along the way.
But I'll tell you, I think that's one of the most ultimate mindset changes of all, when you have something health-wise going wrong with you, and you're trying to run your own business. And I can't tell you the number of people I've run into now over the years who said, well, I'm going through something similar, or I was only able to work, which even was worse than me. I was only able to work like 30 minutes a day for a period of 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, it's shocking to do that.
Yeah, having seen a lot of chronic fatigue patients, I can tell you, and gosh, there were so many myofascial pain syndrome patients and autoimmune patients and others. They're all remarkably the same in terms of brain fog and fatigue. And I think that when you're an entrepreneur, actually paying attention to your health is a mindset deal, because if you ignore your health, you don't have the energy to do a launch, to create products, to do anything. And I think one of the mindsets of entrepreneurs is, I can drink my 6 packs of Coke and eat Snickers bars and I'm going to be a very successful person. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I've been guilty of that plenty of times, man. Just putting my health on the back burner, burning the midnight oil, staying up really late, trying to get things done. And yeah, man, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think. You see a lot of entrepreneurs, like when they first start, they're pretty good shape. But then when they start full-time online, you'll still start picking up weight and stuff.
Yep.
Not everybody, but definitely some.
Yeah.
No, but that's where you have to make your physical health part of your business. And that's a mindset thing in and of itself. If you think that you can just sit in front of a computer for 5 hours a day or so and not get up and move around, you're deluded, because men who do that have a 40% higher death rate.
Right.
You got to get up and move. So for all you internet marketers, you might want to do what Troy has done and Angela Langlots, which is get your standing desks, because sitting's not doing you any favors.
Yeah, one analogy that helped me a lot, and I kind of put 2 balls in this category, but I don't remember who came up with the analogy or whatever, but he said that you're juggling every day, right? And you got 7 balls in your hand. One's your finances, your physical health, your family, and there's very few things that you can let drop, right?
Right.
You got a couple balls in your life that are made of glass. I'd say your family ball is made of glass. Your health ball is made of glass. Man, you drop those 2 balls, you're in danger.
So they're glass balls instead of brass balls, right?
Yeah, right. There you go. They're glass balls instead of brass balls. And
you don't want your brass to be
rubber. So the rubber ones will bounce back. But
super balls.
Yeah. The other ones, not so much. So that's how I kind of like to mentally think.
It's a great idea. Yes, you've got the 7 balls, and Scott's got the 6 pillars, and everybody's got a number that they assign to things, which is pretty interesting. But I think the mindset also is one of the things that comes to mind in the mind is that we often have a fear of distinguishing ourselves. It's like there's a herd mentality in internet marketing too. Like, I'm going to do this, same thing, because Frank Kern did this, because Evan Pagan did this, because somebody else, Mike Filsame, does this. And we get into the notion that we have to imitate other people, comparing ourselves to other people and do the same damn thing that they've done, except for the fact that we were actually created as an original. Why try to be an imitation? That's a mindset thing.
It's nice to model things that other people have done, because you can get further in doing so, and success leaves clues. So if you can model something, you certainly can get there faster than you can by yourself. So you shouldn't always try to reinvent the wheel or do things on your own. But you're absolutely right. You don't want to get in that habit either.
Yeah, I think you have to know yourself, because it takes a certain level of confidence to take something someone else has done successfully and say, well, I want to model that, but I need to send it through the filter of me so it comes out like me.
Right.
But if you're not confident enough about what you're trying to model, and you're not even confident enough about who you are or what you're about, then it could come out really weird, like a pale imitation of this other person. And so it's a funny thing.
Yeah, if you're a pale imitation, you're conning yourself that you have confidence.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. The other thing I often find with mindset is trying to make things easy enough so that if something happened to me, or somebody wanting to emulate me can do that, and not to be too overly polished,
right,
per se, because I spent a lot of time studying franchising and all of those things, and you don't want to come across as too overly polished, kind of like Columbo. Columbo always he always had this way of coming across as polished. One more thing.
You think
but if you want somebody to copy you or model you, you don't want to make it so difficult for them to go, man, there's no way I could ever copy, imitate or replicate Kam's success, because I'm just not that polished, or I'm not that. So you want to be worthy of emulation too.
Good old Columbo.
The old Columbo. I mean, if you're not a storyteller, don't try to be a storyteller. I mean, eventually you can try and challenge yourself and get good at it, and you too could be a Kam. But
everybody's got their own thing, though, right?
Everybody has their own thing.
Yeah, like Columbo. Like all these guys thought they were safe with Columbo. Every episode, man, they're like,
exactly.
Look at this cat. He don't know.
Yeah,
He's real cocky. And then he's always, like you said, he's always like, one more thing. By the way, one more thing.
I was turning.
Brilliant. What is your Columbo? What's your Columbo moment? That's what you got to figure out. Put it through the Columbo filter.
Probably have to go up to no idea who Columbo is, but it's all good.
That'd be a great topic. It's definitely generational, because there's a lot of people who have no idea who Columbo is, who are watching or listening to this. So.
But it certainly is a very good thing to talk about with what we're talking about today, because it definitely fits in.
Yeah. Did we help anybody today, guys? You think we did a good one today?
I think so. I think this one's going to live on for quite some time. Awesome. So we've actually even speculated we might want to make it into a podcast at some point. Who knows?
It's a good idea.
We'll see what happens, because we're kind of getting in the groove at this point, and pretty good at just revealing exactly what we think. So there's not a whole lot of filters going on here, let me tell you later. So with that, we've actually gone a little over an hour, which was not my intention, but hey, it got to be really interesting. And so, any final thoughts, John or Kam, or before we sign off?
Shout out to Terry Thompson for hanging out with us this hour. We always appreciate that, Terry. And I guess that's it, man. I would say, guys, I've been doing this for a while. Since I moved online, and I lost my job at the end of 2010, and I've been working online in some degree ever since. And I will say that it's always been about mindset, especially when it comes to trying to get up to the next level. And I can't even express how important it is. And I understand it's elusive to try to grasp that confidence and that belief necessary, but you just got to keep working on it, man. Find your way, so to speak. I'm done. That's it for me, guys. Thanks.
And your Columbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my only comment for today is life is a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah.
Concentrate on the marathon, the long run, the long game, and everything will go well.
Right on.
Well, I think piggybacking on what you just said, John, that business, any sort of an online business, is also the marathon. It is a journey, and you sure as well better have fun at each stage of this journey, because there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You are in that pot of gold every single day. You keep moving on and trying new things and accomplishing step by step by step. So I think it's that notion of persistence. Enjoy the journey. So instead of, life being a game, maybe life is a dance. And as you lead and follow and adapt, that's where it's at. Be sure to be able to adapt. And just remember that business really is a head game. Get your head straight and you'll do great. So with that ends our marketing happy hour. It was a lively one. It was a good one. And we will be back here again at 2 p.m. ish, because we started 5 after the hour Pacific time, 5 Eastern. Man, the trucks are rolling through the alley here. I knew it was time to end. So it's like 3 Mountain, and God knows why, but 11 a.m. Hawaiian time, because you guys are still on that Alaskan time. Let me know if you're listening from Alaska. All right, we'll be back here next week. Have a great weekend.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.